Hi, this is Kate Avery from Air and Space, and welcome to Antiques Deep Dive Part 3. Today I'm going to be talking to you about this Empire Mahogany coffee table. And it didn't start its life as a coffee table. We actually don't see coffee tables in American furniture design until about 1900, 1910, probably because it's a much more informal piece of furniture. And people were all about formality in the Victorian era. So this table was originally a library table and would have been in a parlor or a library, maybe had some reading material spread out across it, showing off the owner's impressive collection of books. And it would have been table height, which is typically 30 inches tall. And it's been cut down at some point in its life to become a coffee table. And I actually think the design is very effective, and whoever did cut it down did a nice job. I didn't do that work. So we call this Empire, this design, and it's defined by very lobular, kind of rounded curves here. This is late Empire. Empire design in America we start to see around 1820, 1825, and it really doesn't go out of style until about 1920. So it's a very long period of furniture design. It's heavily inspired by Greek Revival forms, and this, being late Empire, has kind of an Art Nouveau aspect to it. It's got a lot of fluidity to its curves, which is very attractive. This is probably my favorite period of American furniture design, and the vast majority of the furniture in my house is Empire. So, being that Empire design really lasted for almost a 100-year span, people ask, well, how do you date it? How do you know if it's early Empire or late Empire? And what's interesting about Empire furniture is it crosses a very big transition period in American furniture, which is the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution drastically changes the way that furniture is produced in the United States. So we go from, in 1820, 1830, and even 1840, small craftsman-run shops where a master craftsman would create a design, create a piece of furniture. He might have multiple journeymen working for him, and then a series of interns that would help him out. And so the furniture is very, very sophisticated. It's beautifully made. It's handmade. After the Industrial Revolution, which is about 1850 to 1870, furniture is being manufactured on a large scale in a factory. And a good indication that this is made in a factory, I'll just take the drawer out here, is that you can see it's got all kinds of numbers on here that are stamped on, and this would have been an inventory number. So after about 1870, 1880, we've got these factories all over New England and really the East Coast producing hundreds and hundreds of pieces of this exact same piece of furniture yearly. So we can feel very good about refinishing this kind of furniture because it's not rare. And in terms of antiques, it's not particularly old, being that it's post-Civil War. And it was never something that someone put a great deal of care and thought into. Now, that being said, it's still a very good, high-quality piece of furniture. So this is, as is typical for a lot of Empire, this is mahogany veneer. Usually they would apply the veneer, which is usually about 1/8 of an inch thick, to a secondary wood. Typically it's either chestnut, poplar, or eastern white pine. This is eastern white pine, which is the most common of them all. So with Empire furniture like this, one of the most common issues that we find in terms of condition is that the veneer begins to chip off, and that happens because the glue that was used to apply the veneer is an oil or a water-based glue, and so it's water reversible. So as these pieces get exposed to damp, especially in basements and garages, the glue will begin to let go, and that means the veneer will begin to chip off. And when veneer chips off, you have to remove all of the loose veneer before you can begin to work on the piece of furniture. And then my suggestion for filling, so I'm gonna hold that up. This is auto body filler. This is Bondo. And it's by far the best if you're going to repair chipped veneer on these Empire pieces. It expands and contracts with the piece of furniture, so unlike wood putty, which will crack if it's not moving at the same pace of expansion and contraction as the wood, this will, and so it's great for that, easy to work with, and this is, I believe, $12.99 for a container, and you can get it at any of your local hardware stores. So there was a lot of chipping down by the feet here and a couple other places that I repaired. That's your first step before you apply any sort of paint. Now, another very common issue that we face with Empire furniture, it's got a very, very dark stain on it. And even if you sand it down, that stain has sunk into the veneer. And so before you paint, you have to apply an oil-based primer. That's gonna stop the bleeding from coming through your paint color, especially if you're using a light paint color. So those two things are absolutely essential when you're attacking an Empire piece of furniture. Now, the other kind of interesting thing about this table is the top is mahogany veneer, which when the client originally dropped it off, I thought it was solid mahogany, but indeed it is a quite nice, thick, high-quality piece of mahogany veneer that's applied to our secondary wood here. And as I said, this table was cut down to be a coffee table, but that wasn't the first thing that happened in its life that was interesting. The client told me when she dropped it off, in fact, her grandfather used to slaughter pigs on this when it was a library table in their basement. And I imagine pig slaughtering is not a particularly kind process to wood, and so he must have already gotten to the point with that table, I'm guessing this was probably in the 30s, where he had decided that it was going to be relegated to the basement. It was no longer fine furniture. Now, the pig slaughtering, obviously knives are being used, and so when this table came to me, there was a lot of damage to the top, a lot of scratches, a lot of gouges, things like that had happened. The tricky thing with that is veneer is only 1/8 of an inch thick, and this table had already been refinished once, and every time you refinish a piece, you're taking away a little bit more of that veneer layer. So really, I was able to get these scratches out just kind of like by the skin of my teeth. But it worked, and then I used an oil-based stain, and then this is about 7 coats of high-gloss oil-based polyurethane, which will protect the table for future use. It makes it completely waterproof and everything like that. So just kind of a fun example of the way that furniture evolves with us, and of course this table's now over 100 years old, and it's ready to go again for the next stage in its life. So thanks for tuning in for part 3 of Antiques Deep Dive. These are going to be regular posts, so please visit my YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.